Once explained, it's not very difficult to understand. You wonder what I'm talking about? You didn't understand it because I didn't use reference correctly. This is what we're going to look at today: reference and inference. Reference is when a speaker uses an expression to help the listener to identify what he's talking about. There's no direct connection between entities and words. The words and entities have to be connected by the speaker through the use of reference. But the listener has to infer correctly, which means she or he has to find out the connection the speaker intended when she or he said something. In my example, from the beginning, I said, "Once explained, it's not very difficult to understand." Instead of saying it, I should have rather said, "The following topic is not very difficult to understand." The referring expression, "the following topic," is a much clearer referent and makes it easier for you as a listener to infer correctly, meaning to understand what I meant with my sentence. There are different phrases and words one can use as expressions to refer to something else. Definite noun phrases, as "the following topic," can be used as referring expressions. Or one can use an indefinite noun phrase, like in this example, "Once explained, a linguistic topic is not very difficult to understand." One can also use a pronoun, but you have to be careful, as you have to make sure that the listener knows what you're referring to with the pronoun. Like in my first example, "Once explained, it's not very difficult to understand," you had no chance of understanding what I was talking about. I didn't give you, as a listener, any context. Better would have been if I said, "Today we'll talk about reference. Once explained, it's not very difficult to understand." To help you as a listener to understand the intended reference of a pronoun, you can add context to your sentence, or you as a listener look at the context as well. But what is context? Context is the linguistic material surrounding the referring expression you used. Here it would be, "Today we'll talk about reference." Context limits the possible interpretations of a referring expression for you as a listener. With the context, you now know that it doesn't refer to a game or a mathematical formula, but you know that it stands for the topic reference. Contexts make it easier for the listener to find out the speaker's intended meaning. Another way to understand reference better is when you consider the context in which it is said. Context is the physical environment, like the local knowledge or local social conventions. You are watching this video in order to understand pragmatics better, or while you are at university. Therefore, in this context, you know that you have to expect a tutorial about a pragmatic future. Because of the context you're in, you understand reference as a subtopic of pragmatics. The context you're in influences the reference you use and how you infer as a listener. But let us go back to the referring expressions once more. As you already got to know, indefinite noun phrases can be referring expressions. Indefinite noun phrases can be used to describe a physically present referent, like in "there's a book on the table." Or they can be used to identify a referent that is assumed to exist, as in "he wants to marry a woman with lots of money." Furthermore, they can be used to describe entities that, as far as we know, do not exist. I want to see a fairy one day. If we take a closer look at the example, "he wants to marry a woman with lots of money," depending on referring expressions, it can be an attributive use or a referential use. If the entity, which means the woman, is only known by its descriptive properties, the referring expression is attributive. It means it refers to whoever or whatever fits the description. So the woman he marries can be any woman, as long as she has lots of money. If the speaker actually has a certain woman in mind about whom he is talking, then it's a referential use. Now, to put it in a nutshell, successful reference depends on me as a speaker and my selection of linguistic expressions. My intention is to identify certain entities with the assumption that you as a listener will collaborate and interpret the referring expressions in the way I want you to. In this whole process, different dimensions like the context and the context, and within it, the fact that we share the same language and culture, play an important role.